Today I found out that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And to do my due diligence, I wanted to do something with it. So, what I decided to do was reach out to Belinda Lane, who is an author and a blogger who created the Friday at Sundown site. But throughout her life, she has spent decades in the domestic violence field. So, I reached out to Belinda, who lives in Atlanta, earlier this evening, and we did an impromptu Zoom interview. I'd like to show you that interview now. Computer. Okay. We're here tonight with Belinda M. Lane, Belinda Marie Lane. Um, Belinda is a writer of poetry and short stories. Many may know her as the creator of the Friday at Sundown blog, which I edited some of the pieces. Reverend Jackie and Reverend Kiera uh, wrote on a regular basis, and even Minister Michon and Pastor Phil has done some things. So we're here with Belinda because of her writing skills, and one additional thing is that she just released a book here, Standing on the Edge of Your Tomorrow. And we have actually collaborated on two videos that are on the new VLF Nation YouTube channel, and we're getting views. So Belinda, how are you?
I am great.
Okay. So I have a couple of questions, and the reason that I'm asking the questions is that um, I found out just today that today is October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I know that that figures into some of the things that you've done um, and the way that you think. So I have a number of questions and I want to ask those questions. Now, if I'm looking weird, it's because I have two screens and my camera is
Oh,
here
that's
looking
okay.
at us here.
I'm
Okay.
good. I'm
All
good.
right. So my first question is, and I have it on my phone, with the fact that this month has been dedicated to domestic violence awareness, what does that mean to you?
It means that we're trying to get individuals to understand that there is a serious problem. And for me, because I have worked with domestic violence, I worked with it when I was in Richmond, Virginia. I worked with it when I was in Baltimore, with the House of Ruth, I used to, which is there familiar, you all are familiar with.
Mhm.
I I did there. So I think I think one of the things that bothers me concerning, and I was thinking about this, is that so many people that are really not in a domestic violence situation, and that's why I wrote my what I wrote in the title, they're very quick to tell someone what they should do. And one of the things that we did learn when I started this, especially, I really did a lot of this when I was in Virginia because I worked with the Safe House. Um, they tell us not to tell people what they should do because a lot of those women don't have that kind of strength, you know, and a lot of people will leave them because they are not doing what they were told that they should do. But you got to look at the person's personality, their makeup, their, I mean, just the components of their life. You're looking at yours saying, well, this is what I would do. But I would beg to differ too, because you could probably be in that same situation or maybe not as deep in it. And you may do something totally different. We assume, and that's what I wanted to speak in my writing. I wanted to speak for the woman that's in the domestic violence situation that people don't understand or walk away from.
Okay. So, you've been dealing with this for a number of years, and My second question is, in dealing with the things that you've dealt with over the years, your transparency of things has been through or has translated into your writing. So, what can you tell us about that?
Give me a little bit more clarity on that
Okay,
question.
so a lot of the events in your book are
Mhm.
from things you know about,
Right.
and these things that you know about has translated into certain writings that you've had, certain so whether it's poetry or the short stories.
Mhm.
So, what can you tell me about these experiences translating into your writing and putting it on the written page?
Basically, most of what I write, I've seen. Well, really, not mostly, everything I've seen. I've seen, uh, we had a woman that came to the Safe House in Richmond, and she was in her 70s. And this is when they had phone booths. Y'all, the younger people have to Google that.
Yeah, they would.
And she called, and she lived a good way. So she called in the morning,
Okay.
and and what they would do is they would send a cab or someone to pick you up to bring you to the safe house. And she said, I can't take it anymore, and I'm tired. And so we were going to go get her. She said, no, I'll get there. She walked. It took her almost an entire day. She walked. And when she got there, she just fell from exhaustion. But she had got to that point that she had to finally walk out in her 70s, you know. Talked with another young lady who was married to a policeman. And and I put this in my book, uh, he was just full of rage. He would come home full of rage and very quiet person. He was, I mean, you would never even think that he even had that kind of rage in him. And he would beat her. And when she would come to work, sometimes she had tried the best that she could to get herself looking presentable, but you know, and no one really tried to help her per se because she wouldn't leave. But he done threatened her that if she tried to leave, he was going to take the children and go somewhere and no one would know where they are. So she stayed because of her children. Had another one that was married to a policeman that used to handcuff her to the bed every night before he went to work and put a pot there, you know. And that's crazy.
That's the
And
stuff
we're
you
not
hear
even,
about on movies. You wouldn't think
yeah.
that that
Oh, it's real. It is real. And there's stories out there that I probably, you probably wouldn't believe, like you just said. It's like a movie, but people are real live characters, that's out there.
I'm going to add a question that I hadn't planned on adding, and I don't know in our years are decades, but in our professional um, relationship of doing the blogs and stories and such, I don't know if I've ever asked you this question. So, and I think I know the answer,
Hmm.
but if you don't mind, we're going to add this one question. So,
Okay.
seeing the things that you have seen, and just with these examples that you just gave us, would you class your would you classify yourself as an empathetic person?
When you say empathetic,
You feel the pain of the people that you're working with. You feel the pain of the people that you see. You could even
my
feel the pain of something that you see. So when it
I
comes to
I do.
domestic violence, so
I do. And that's why I was able to write the stories because I felt their pain and I wanted I wanted them to be heard because people don't hear them a lot of times.
right.
What they do is see what they're going through. And in the one that I just wrote, the silent, scream, they don't know the times that people have tried to get up and leave and just couldn't do it, you know. Uh, and someone will say, well, just do it, you know.
And I
But
may
that's
have been
someone
one of
that's,
those people
yeah,
in the past. I may
that's
have been
someone
one of
that,
those people.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's someone that's not in that situation. And unfortunately, the majority believe that they can do, that the person can do something about it, you know. But yet, and especially when they have been offered help. And that's one thing that we did when I was with the Y at that time, in Greyhound bus. You know, I don't know if they still going. I had to Google that too.
Yeah. Right.
But we would buy the shelter would buy a one-way ticket for anybody that wanted to leave out of the city and state that we were in, a one-way ticket.
Okay.
So we did have people that would go to California, go, and then we would hook them up if they had nowhere to go with a shelter there to get them there to help them, find housing and a job and things of that nature. So it's a real problem, but I also want to say too, something else that we don't think of, and this really irritates men. There are men that are in domestic violence situations.
And thinking about um, this month, and like I say, I'm finding out about it today, but you know how I think. So I'm constantly trying to do things and thinking about interviews and such. I remember us talking about that men were in a similar situation. And if we think that a woman is hard to come to somebody to admit what's going on, it has to be almost nil for a man to come and admit that he has been taken advantage of too.
And men don't. They really don't. When I was in another state, we had a very few, and we used to send them to the YMCA. Um, and they had like a class for management of anger, but we still would send them because again, it's all how a person is raised. It's We don't understand the mind, the things that are put in a person's mind at a young age that they cling to and they hold to. Um, this doesn't have anything to do with the domestic violence, but I remember having a client because I worked in a private psychiatric hospital used to call Charter Westbrook, and I understand that they're closed now. And I remember one of my clients there was a man wherein two policemen had stopped him and they drugged him into the woods and they raped him.
I might remember that. I
And
might remember that. And I know
and
something similar has happened before
yeah,
in New York. I
yes,
remember. Yeah.
yeah.
I might
hmm
be confused.
And can you imagine how messed up he was?
Yes. Yes.
And then plus they threatened him, if he ever tell. And it was I don't think even when he left the hospital, we know he wasn't ready to leave, but he just didn't feel that there was no hope for him, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we can apply that to many other situations.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to the other prepared question um, that I have now. You've dealt with this domestic violence throughout your life. And so I guess my next question was, does writing about it cause you to relive it?
Not really. Um, when I'm writing, it's like I just want to tell the story. I just want the story. So of course I have emotions mixed up in it, but when I get through, I'm good. I don't I'm real good. And in my book, my first story, which is a story about my life, back in the 70s, I was in kind of in that because if a person put a gun to your head, I think you could consider that domestic violence.
I would say yes. Yes, because I mean, you are good, but
Yeah.
it might have had a very adverse effect on somebody else. But yeah, I would
Yeah.
think so.
And that is what happened to me. And the because of decisions that were being made with someone else's life, who my life was attached to, the person did not want to let me go, So in my trying to get out of that situation, it turned out bad. It turned out real bad. I don't know how far you want me to go with it because if you read that part, but
Maybe for another interview, but go ahead.
for another one, yeah. So I've had a taste of it, you know, um, but I came out of it.
Right.
Oh yeah, I came out, but that's because of the kind of person that I am. And that's why I cannot put myself on someone else and say, well, I did it, you can do it too. No, you're a whole different person.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I guess my final question is, with your new book, which recently came out, and they can, well, let me continue the question. So with the new book that recently came out, and we've just released um, two, The Silent Scream and The Birth, on VLF Nation, but The Silent Scream definitely plays into this month. Uh,
Right.
uh, what's next for Belinda M. Lane? What's next for you?
Well, I'm on to my second book now. And I guess what's next for me, I always say I want to be a bestseller, but my reason for wanting to be a bestseller lets me know how many people have read the book. Because I do feel like I have a message to carry. And that's one of the things that I was told when my book is being published, that you are speaking for so many people, the homeless, the lonely person, the person that's trying to want to commit suicide, the person that just feels like it's no use, no hope, that your stories speak to give voice to those situations, to people that cannot give a voice to it. So for me, the writing is definitely my thing. I am so honored that you would even think to put it on YouTube, you know. Um, but yeah, I guess for me is to keep on writing. I would really like to do book tours. I would, like go to other states. In all honesty, I would like my book to be in a couple of other languages,
Oh, that would be nice.
because again, we're in America not the only ones,
Exactly. So
you
I'm
know.
glad that it's been you released it on Amazon. Again, I'm urging not just for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but because the pieces that we release, especially the Silent Scream, I think are very good pieces. I'm hoping that we will do at least one more, a little bit longer in length. Um, but we're wishing that for you. And as you know, I'm
Thank
always
you.
in your corner, and
I know.
I'll be riding with you through this next book as well. So, anything you want to say to your adoring fans, because you do have a few here at Victorious Living Faith Ministries. Anything that you would like to say to anybody?
Um, yes, thank you, especially to your pastor, Phil, to Jackie Key, to Key's husband, just for the support, you know, because the blog went on for 3 years, but I was getting ready to just, say, okay, I done did it. I'm going to step out to it. And they just stepped right in, Jackie and Key, different, your pastor, they stepped in and they made it went through another year. So I am grateful for how people believe in me, you know, and that's one of the things I don't ever want to let anyone down, you know. Um, I respect them and I respect their positions and their voices because they all have a voice too. So I'm just happy with this village per se that God has made me a part of.
Well, great. So we're going to end the interview. We're hoping that you will be a part of the VLF Nation with your writings, stories, and poems. And we wish you the best as you move forward toward the second book.
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity.
All right.
Love you dearly.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.